In previous videos, I made a statement that left spirituality and right spirituality don't go together. Of course, a lot of people disagree with this, and I understand why. Because they mistaken themselves for left and right, but left hand spirituality is something completely different. It's, most of the people claim that you can hold them together, but in this case, you cannot. Left hand is not right hand, and there is no middle in it. And the dragon spirituality is left, religions are right. So, in saying this, this comment said that Tiamat also back in the day started as a religion. And like every dragon god, it started with a religion. That the goddess, for example, Tiamat in Mesopotamia, was heavenly worshipped. Well, my brothers and sisters, she was worshipped, kinda, in a way. Let me explain this to you, my brothers and sisters, because I want to. There is a misunderstanding in this. There is very much. Because Tiamat was not at all seen as someone that they kneel down before. There were gods in Mesopotamia that asked for submission, that you pray, that you kneel down. But Tiamat was not among them. Even though Tiamat was the strongest among the gods, even she could create life in itself, but she did not demand that. That is also why they didn't worship in a way that in religion is. So in fact, that is 100% wrong. Tiamat was not worshipped like in a religion. Then you can find this up. You can very easily on Google, that if Tiamat was ever worshipped, she was, but not in the way how religions did it. The same things with other dragon gods. For example, Leviathan. In a way also, he also could be very much worshipped because he is the dark half of God, literally. That he described him, that the Bible describes Leviathan as the dark half of God. It can easily be mistaken that he is also a God that wants submission, that he is the head of a religion, he is the face of a religion. But do you ever know a religion where Leviathan is the one that they look up to? Of course not, because in the way Leviathan says that you are individual, and an individual is not at all like how religions that is not how religions go. You cannot say that you are an individual and you do your own things. If you are a religion, then you say we are all the same, we are just doing the same. Not with Tiamat, not with Leviathan. Fafnir, just the same thing. What did they do with Fafnir? Fafnir was born in skin and bones like us, but he changed into a dragon after he was guarded the treasure from Odin. It was a cursed gold. It was cursed gold, and he changed into a dragon. Later on, he was seen as the ultimate guardian. So everywhere in Scandinavia, they put his face everywhere. Like you would say, that is some kind of a religion. No, not at all, because they didn't pray for Fafnir. They just wanted to protect everywhere. For example, the boats, the Viking boats, that is the reason why they had a face of a dragon in front of it, simply because of Fafnir. Because Fafnir, they had much respect for Fafnir, and they had much respect for his abilities as a guardian, because nobody could actually touch that gold because of Fafnir. So he, in a way, kinda, again, he was worshipped and respected, but not in a way how religions did it. Same way, for example, with Quetzalcoatl, the one of the air, the wise one, the wisest of them all. Quetzalcoatl was worshipped, and you can say, yeah, that was inside of a, there were priests talking about Quetzalcoatl. But what is the difference? Because every single god demanded sacrifices, except for Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl said that he doesn't want that because that is a sacrifice against its will. So he doesn't want that. Every single god that is worshipped, in this world, for example, Yahweh of Allah, or these are the gods that actually ask and demand from you. Dragons do not demand, not the dragon gods as well. For example, Tiamat would never ask you to kneel down. So that is also not what she asked to the Mesopotamians, for the people from Babylon. She did not ask that. These were not the people that bowed down before her. That was for other deities, such as Marduk, for example, the one that tore Tiamat in two. That was the one and the beginning of religion, because she was torn in two. So it didn't start with religion at all, with Tiamat. No. If you understand dragons, if you understand your own dragon self, if you understand everything draconic, you would understand that right does not match with left. So that was basically the battle. The battle what was going on between Tiamat and Marduk. Religion versus spirituality, or maybe spiritual, seeking for yourself, for your true self. That is Tiamat. Tiamat and the other dragon gods is searching for yourself, what your limits are, what your power is, what everything is. It's very individual. This is what Tiamat is, not religion. That is what Marduk is. On the side of Marduk was literally Yahweh slash Allah slash. That is why I say to you, you cannot mix them. Never. That is what I learned on the Dragon's Path. That is what I learned on my Dragon's Path. That you cannot mix that. You can, of course, and that is what the thing is. A lot of people take, for example, Tiamat, or maybe, no, not Tiamat, but for example, Yahweh, out of this religious thing and take it into a personal spirituality. In this case, you are, I don't know what this is, to be very honest, because without that book, without the Bible or maybe the Quran, there was no someone to worship. There was no one to take. So if I never heard of or anything about Tiamat, if I didn't hear about the dragon, I would still be on this path. If people would say that's nuts, that's insane, but I never read a book about it. I just could feel it. I was very happy to accept it. And everything that changed, everything that happened to me was great. It was amazing. It was an evolution. It was a revelation. Everything is. But the basis of, for example, Yahweh or Allah is a book. That's a book. You have to follow that book. If you don't want to follow that book, but you take them anyway, what a lot of people do actually, and do it in a personal spirituality, that is what I can say, mixing them together, left and right. But it doesn't make sense. For me personally, it doesn't make any sense. Because without that book that you have to read, that with clear rules, that God said, that Jesus said, that Allah said, that Muhammad said, you have to follow that if you want to take them out and ignore what is inside of it. That is something completely different. That is not what I can say, that is something new. Something from, you can say for yourself, but with a shred of religion in it. So that is why I said my spiritual path came by itself, not from a book, not from my parents that told me like this, not from my husband or wife or whatever. It came by itself. And so if, without any distraction, I came inside of my dragon's path. I didn't even had to know Tiamat's name. So that is what Tiamat is. The goddess who was worshipped, kinda. So are every dragon god. So these are not the ones that you have to make up stories for, because you can feel what the stories are. And you are the centerpiece of that story. You are not just one of the many. But with taking it out of the story and then placing it in a new story, in your story, you don't have to do that. You just have to take your own path, your own deities, your own gods, your own everything. The first time that I ever felt a god was when I could feel a dragon. And that means that it really was meant to take for me. And in this also is something that we need to find out inside of our lives. Our lives is always based on what we find, not what we are distracted to. We are easily distracted as humans, easily. And that is why I go to the forest. I go here, undistracted, and here I talk with the dragon, with the goddess, with Leviathan, Fafnir, with every one of them. I can talk with them in peace and quiet, because I know Most of the people in this world will not have a connection with them simply because it's not their light, and of course that is what it is. So you don't have to take anything from a right hand religion and hope to make it left hand. Start all over. You don't need these figures because these figures were meant to be right-handed. These figures were always meant to suppress. And if I read the Bible very well, or maybe the Quran, then you have to. You always have to. You shall do this, or else. That is crowd control. What I am following, what the dragon's path really is nothing at all like crowd control. And you can hope, for example, if you are for the right-hand religion, that you take it out and you wish that it won't be crowd control again, because you are no longer listening to priests and anyone else. But if you call yourself a priest, then it's still the same. It's still right-hand religion. It's still that. So I will not call myself a priest. I am not a priest, and we will never be priest, because I do not know your dragon, your story. I do not know. Everyone is in its own story, in its own path, and everything that happens to us is something that we can share with each other, but not telling whatever we need to do, because we do not know that. And that is typically dragons. Dragons take their path. Dragons are rebels. Dragons don't listen. Dragons just do. And that is what is so beautiful about our spiritual part of the dragon. We just do. We do not listen, and we are not, never be distracted. Because distraction is so easily done. Like I said, I used to be a Christian myself. I was raised a Catholic. I was even raised in a monastery, my brothers and sisters. I knew every sister over there. So I was even a servant of the church. So in effect, I could easily do the same. So I could not let Jesus behind take it and no, I ditched it. And later on, I got a revelation from the dragon. Everything was empty. There was no spirituality anymore. There was no religion. It was just beginning from the start. And on 28th of November, the dragon revealed before me. And that was not a book. That was not a culture. That was not a God that they spoke me about. That just came. And I'm so grateful for the dragons, for the dragon gods, that I was witnessing that. Of course, a lot of people say how crazy it is. Well, my brothers and sisters, I was asking myself the same thing. Why is this happening to myself? I was actually pushing a bit like the dragon away, like I am not worthy of you. But that is not it. Yes, the dragon is connected to you, so you are worthy to them. So that is not a book. That is experience. And that is what you need on a left-hand spirituality. I do not take just a God and hope to be left-handed. No, I just start all over and let it be my story. And that is a left-hand spirituality. That is the dragon's path.